Welcome to Things I Can't Say, the podcast for the things parents whisper, not post. I'm Annie, a parent who's walked through the quiet, lonely hallways of raising a child with traits that don't fit neatly into any of the parenting books, or on anyone's social media feed either. Each week we'll open the door to stories that rarely get told out loud. I'll start with mine, and then you'll hear from other parents, mental health professionals, and people who know what it means to live in the gray instead of the black and white. This is a place where shame loses its power, where complexity isn't feared but explored, and where love doesn't have to be easy in order to be real. If you've ever felt like no one else could possibly understand, you're not alone here. This is Things I Can't Say, and I am so glad you're here. To set the scene for today, I'm in my bathrobe, wrapped up in a blanket. I'm comfy today. Today feels a little vulnerable, and that feels odd to say because everything I share is a bit vulnerable. I share a lot on social media, but I filter a huge amount of what I say on other platforms. And it may feel like I am sharing so much. You may think on other platforms that I am sharing so much. But it is all very, very filtered outside of the podcast. On the podcast, I share far more details than I share elsewhere. And I think the reasoning for that is on other platforms, I can see, get a general idea of who is watching me. I know who is on there. I know biological family is on there. I know our son is on there. And I have this continued need to protect other people's feelings, emotions, protect the peace, all the things. And so I filter some of the details of what I'm saying on those platforms. Over here on the podcast, I cannot see who's watching unless you comment. And so it feels very anonymous to me. You're hearing my voice and I don't see you at all. So I have this idea in my head that I can say as much as I want, and so I do. So while I have shared a few updates on other platforms of what is currently happening, I have not gone into how bad things currently are. Background, I know you've been here, so you know the gist. Our son ran away from his group home in April. He turned 18 in July. We've had no contact with him since the day he turned 18. He has been living on his own, but the way that our kiddo works, he would not live a life where he is fully homeless. Like when you see people on the street really, really struggling, that is not how our son would live. He will find someone to help take care of him. He will manipulate, use someone to make his life more comfortable in any possible way he can. That piece of comfort, very important to him. Having a phone, very important to him. Having food, like he will find ways to get what he needs. He will not suffer in extreme ways. So I think there's that part of me as a mom that does not worry about his living conditions because I know he's finding ways to live as comfortably as he can. And one of the ways he's always done that is to find typically a female that he can get to support him in some way. That same thing is true right now. There is a new girlfriend in his life. As far as I know, it's been a couple of months that this person has been around. Again, he's 18. This person is at least 20, maybe a little bit older. Does not appear to have had the best life, does not have the best, safest, most steady parents, that type of thing. But again, it is consistent and he has someone that he can find support with. So I've had concern for a while, but I knew biological family was still making sure he had food and making sure he had clothing and shoes and still supporting him in some ways. I also knew that he still had his rep team involved, so he still had disability services somewhat involved. There should have still been a therapist involved. There was still some form of limited supports happening. Um, in December, probably a week before Christmas, I heard that it was likely there were some harder substances being used, which I've suspected for a while, but I had no proof of that. I didn't have confirmation of what that was, just a hint that it was probably happening. Then came Christmas, which was my first Christmas without him here. That hit me very, very hard. I I'm not gonna cry. I mean, I might, but I struggled through Christmas, and it was not the fact that he wasn't here. It is more the grief that life is not how I expected it would look. That I don't have that pretty family Christmas that I anticipated, that all my kids aren't together and it's not the Instagram worthy Christmas that I thought we might have as a family. So I struggled through Christmas a bit. Uh, we got through Christmas. I then got a phone call from someone involved, and I'm going to protect who it was that was involved, who called and said, I need to talk to you. He is using meth at this point. He is still with this girl whose parents are also addicts. There's a high likelihood that the girlfriend is an addict. Um, he made some very unkind statements to biological family, including a threat of harm to a grandmother that has supported him very, very consistently, very outside of his character. Um, his health is not good. His appearance is not good. And on top of that, because he has lost all biological family support due to the substances that he is using, he is living with the girlfriend in our town. So, um, our town is not large. We have one middle school, one high school, small school. Like, we have one Safeway and one Walmart. Like, we're not a big town. And he is back in town with this girl using meth. When my son is using marijuana, he is very unstable. And now we've introduced a much harder substance, which he has used in the past, um, but now it's consistent. And for our son, there's no breaks. There is no like, that's too far. That's enough. I should stop now. There's not a limit to anything. Um, my husband was driving our granddaughter home when I got that phone call, and our daughter was with him. And my heart just dropped. Like the thought, I don't know how to explain this as clearly as I want to. Like, I don't know that I'm physically afraid of our son. I don't want to put out there that I'm like physically afraid of him. I also know what he is capable of, and I know what he's like when he's using, and that part is very, very scary. Um, I knew based on the size of our city, if nothing else, that I needed our daughter to know right away. Um, I don't know exactly where his girlfriend lives, but the general location is fairly close to our daughter's school. Chances of running into him, seeing him walking down the street, it's all very, very high. And that's that's not good. Um, she needed to be aware. So we shared with her when her and my husband got home. Um, And my girl's anxiety went through the roof, which I understood because my anxiety was also through the roof. Um, I finally was sharing with my husband yesterday. Again, this was like a week ago that we got this information. And I just told my husband yesterday, like, when I first heard the information, one of my initial thoughts was my husband needs to put a weapon in our room. We need to protect ourselves. And the idea that I even have that thought about my own child makes me ill. That I even thought that about my own child makes me ill. But that's where my brain goes. My daughter didn't want to go to school. She was very, very scared of going to school. We made some plans with school staff so that they were aware of what her concerns were. I don't know that I'll share exactly what all of my concerns are because I don't know if he will hear this and I don't want to give him ideas of where he could do things that he hasn't thought of yet. But I have very specific concerns around things that he could do. Uh, it's hard. The idea that a child of mine is addicted to meth, like, my child is addicted to meth. My child is a meth addict. Like, I have to sit with this idea that my child is a meth addict. My child is unsafe. I'm afraid of my child, even though I want to say that I'm not. My daughter is afraid of her brother. My daughter's afraid of going to school because she's afraid of her brother. And all of that led a bit to her really pushing harder for accountability from our district attorney for not pressing charges against him for what he did to her. So I did contact the victim's advocate this week, had a wonderful conversation with her. Like, I I was really impressed by the response that I received in that phone call, the questions that were asked, the clarifications that were made, the people she said she would speak to in order to come up with an answer. Because what I want and what my daughter wants, I think, might be two different conversations. I think we both would like justice to happen. We would both like to stop our son from harming additional people if we can. We both want answers, but I really want someone other than me to tell my daughter why he is not being held accountable for what he did. I want someone other than me to answer for that decision. I want someone else to look her in the eye and give her that answer. I want someone else to explain it to her because I'm tired of making excuses for it. I'm tired of trying to tell her why they've made that decision, why it's fallen through the cracks, why, when I don't fully understand it myself. And I feel like I'm just making excuses for other people. I want them to look at her and tell her so she hears it from them. It is, it is hard to know that I have a child who is dangerous. I have a son who's dangerous. And from what I know currently, he is in my city. And beyond that, this part I'll probably filter a little bit, but uh, I have been able to confirm with the wraparound team that has worked with him and with other people he has spoken to that his lies, the lack of truth that he is telling everybody, is just continuing. The stuff that he is saying to people is just this circle of lies. And to know that that is ongoing, that it didn't end when he left our house, that we weren't the problem, we weren't the issue, The same thing is happening ongoing with other people. He is telling people things that are completely untrue. And what it seems to be is he's dangling this thing of hope. Like when people say they're done with him, then he dangles this little bit of hope, none of which is true, in order to keep them engaged with him, to keep them going, to keep them coming back so that they won't go away, so that they won't give up, so that they won't set a boundary, because there's still hope, because he's still doing this thing that he's not really doing, that he's still got this next opportunity that he doesn't really have. He just continues to lie to people for no real reason other than to just pull people. I don't even know. I don't even know. I think this week has just been a big slap in the face for me of a reminder that this isn't going to magically end. That I can set a boundary saying that we have no contact with him, that he is not coming to our house, right? Like I can set a boundary as big as the Grand Canyon between us and him, and it still is not going to end. I am still going to check the jail roster on occasion to see if my kid is in there. I'm still going to hear updates about him. I'm still going to know what he's doing because I'm still his parent. I'm still connected to the hot mess that continues. And my child's a meth addict. All the stuff that we did to try to help him not go this direction. My child is a meth addict. And while people want to tell me to have hope, I have zero. I have no hope at this point. I know that people recover. I know because I've been there, I've seen it. I know. I also know my child. And I do not have any hope that we're coming back from this. It makes me sick. Did I expect anything different at this point? No, I didn't. And also, can something happen without harming anybody that will just put him in prison or a mental hospital for a really long time so he cannot harm himself or other people? Soon, please, right away. Because I don't know what else will be beneficial at this point. Yeah, there's a lot of really deep breaths right now. There's a lot of ice cream in the bathtub. There's a lot of thrift stores. There's a lot of sleepless nights because I just can't believe this is where we're at. But here we are. My child's a meth addict, a dangerous meth addict. And there's nothing I can do to stop it. It's not in my control. I'll try to do the next episode sooner. But this stuff is heavy. It's painful. I want to talk about it. I want to share it. And also, it's a lot. But I know I'm not the only parent. I know it's not just me. Thanks for being here, listening, feeling, and sitting with the hard stuff. If you've ever whispered a story like mine, I'd love to hear from you. You can leave me a message at mombehindthescenes.com because every story told gives someone else permission to share theirs. This is Things I Can't Say, the podcast for things you whisper, not post. Until next time, take care of yourself.